The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello, and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. And I'm extra excited tonight because some of the voices you'll be hearing will be singing with some beautiful harmonies. So I want to just briefly mention, if you're interested in the programs that I teach, because I'm a core alignment coach, an emotional wisdom training specialist, and a diversity, equity, inclusion educator, you can just message me at It's Your Voice Show on Instagram, and I can tell you about any of my trainings on how to step out of bias and create new inclusive pathways, and I'd love to hear from you. Today we have Sam Misner and Megan Smith of Misner and Smith, a duo couple that have been creating music, I think at least for 18 years together. They can correct me if I'm wrong. And I have heard them only once live, but I've been listening to their songs, and there's just something so unique. And the categories of the types of music they sing are quite diverse as well. And they have just amazing harmonies. And I just want to read the sentence because this captures it from their website. The songs yearn for connection, ache for understanding, and relish in mystery, and rejoice in creation. And I think it's amazing. I think it's hard to describe what they do. So luckily you get to hear from them, and we're going to be playing 3 different songs. And so come on in, Sam and Megan. Thank you for being here today.
Hi.
Hey, Bahia, nice to be with you.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so excited.
We are too. It's great to be here.
I'm sure I have more questions than we have time for, but I like that just sort of the basic beginning of like, how did y'all get started? Like, did you meet hearing each other play music somewhere, and how did this musicianship develop?
Well, we started our sort of partnership in the live theater. We were both stage actors and still are. Professionally. And so we were in several shows together, and we had sort of known each other, from being in the business together. And then we got cast in a show, sort of a musical about Woody Guthrie and his music, and called Woody Guthrie's American Song. And that was kind of it. We started playing together, and Sam started sharing some of his original music that he was writing with me, and I really liked it. And we come from very different backgrounds, so our sort of like coming together created a lot of fodder for, interesting results in the music we make together. And so it's been quite a ride.
It was really the harmonies that in the show that we were cast in. Yeah. Because we were playing arrangements of Woody Guthrie's music, but, pretty elaborate arrangements in a lot of cases throughout the show. So there were some moments where the two of us were singing harmony together, just the two of us. And that's kind of where we noticed a pretty unique blend vocally, and kind of had a moment in rehearsal where we went, wow, looked at each other and like, this sounds really good together. And that's kind of, and for several years when we first started, we were still focused on working in theater around the country. So that was our focus, and music was when we had downtime in between theater jobs. And then, various things happened, and the economy dropped out and under all of us in 2008. And we were suddenly realizing theaters were not hiring as many people from outside their own area. So there was less work, and we started going, well, we can make our own work. So we were doing a lot more music, and it's a balance now, but music has been pretty much our focus for the last 10 or 12 years. Yeah, something like that.
Well, before we turn to more about your music, did you do theater other than theater that involved music? Or did you do some acting that was not musical as well?
Sometimes the majority of the theater we've both done individually has been not of a musical nature, which is kind of funny that the one real musical that we both did was that Woody Guthrie piece. And we've done it several times since then, actually, with different theaters. And we did it at the Freight. We did like an official cast recording at the Freight and Salvage in Berkeley, California, which was amazing and fun. But yeah, most of the plays we do are not musicals in nature. Yeah. We did a lot of Shakespeare. And
all kinds of different
things. Yeah.
But very little musical theater. Like I don't know any musical theater trivia, to be honest, except things I've caught on through just being in the theater for 20 plus years. But yeah, so it was really straight plays that we've been doing the majority, and then the music has been a kind of separate thing.
It's like another animal. Yeah, it's like another creature.
Yeah, but they really do influence. I mean, when people have asked about who our influences are, our answer is usually musicians and songwriters. But the truth is, the way that we write songs and perform is so much to do with being influenced by a life in theater and playwrights and poetry. So it's a big umbrella who influence us for sure.
Well, that makes sense, because I noticed watching a video of you two welcoming people into your living room during COVID. Just seemed like we were in your living room, so that it was so natural for y'all to. I can see that, not that you were acting, like you were genuinely inviting people in.
Yeah.
During COVID, but why don't you let folks know how you ended up doing shows from your living room?
Well, and what basically happened was our first gig was canceled, I think March 13th, 2020. And
it was a Friday night.
As with many people, most people thought, okay, well, I guess we'll be a few weeks of no shows. And then, not thinking it was going to go longer than that. But the next night after our show was canceled, we thought, well, we're not doing anything. No one else is doing anything. Let's put our phone up and play from our living room and see if anyone's feeling like listening. And that's basically how it started. And then we essentially every Saturday night for the first 2 years, I think, year and a half at least, we were doing shows from our living room. And what you mentioned about welcoming people in, yes, we were looking for something to do on the first night after our show was canceled, but we were also wanting to use our music to try to feel connected and help other people feel connected. And that idea, I think, is what came across, and what you said about welcoming people in is we did use, I mean, unconsciously used our acting, training of endowing something that's not there, an audience in front of us, but acting in a way like they are. But really, the truth is we were just talking to people. And I think that was our goal, was to make people feel like, hey, we're separated, but we're together. And we had no idea how much it would mean to people and to us, but the messages that we've had over the last 2 years, and we're still doing the shows, not every Saturday, but maybe about once or twice a month. and usually on Sundays, but things change. But the idea was, to bring people together, and we had no idea how many people and what they would mean to folks in one of the hardest times of most of our lives through the pandemic. So, yeah.
I remember, Megan, you said something in a previous conversation about how, of course, we know music can be healing, and we know that it can be such a good experience, but just the messages you got from the community made you realize just how much more, I can't word it the way you did so eloquently, but just how healing it could be, even electronically over such a distance.
Yeah.
During such a time.
I think that's what kind of stuck with us the most, was the fact that the people who showed up for those shows and continue to show up for those shows, actually, which I think is the most surprising to us, were like, well, I mean, people are doing more outside their homes now. And even though we're still dealing with, COVID in general, things are changing and people are getting back to their lives, thankfully, which is a good thing. And so we just sort of assumed it would dissolve and it wouldn't be meaningful to anybody anymore. But what it did do was it gathered people together in a space that felt, we tried to make it always welcoming, always comfortable. It's a concert, but we tried to not make it too formal. We wanted people to be able to speak to one another and comment, to us too, so that we could talk to them. And my parents came over and my mom was fielding the comments so that we could kind of concentrate on the music, which was great. And she had so much fun doing that too, because she got to know everybody as well. And so what's come about is this sort of community that does center around the music and the music that we're playing, but it's sort of grown to be much bigger than that. And I think both in our lives as actors and our lives as musicians, our whole aim has, across these many years that we've been working, even when we were working alone, before we worked together, it's always been about connection and community and gathering together and feeling like you are part of something that's bigger than yourself. And that's truly how we ended up feeling, is that, these people who joined this community for varying different reasons, it all kind of culminated to make people feel less alone and less isolated. And I think even without the pandemic, that's an important thing, because I don't think the pandemic really made a lot of us feel that in a way that we'd never felt it before. But I think just in the modern world and just generally, how we go about our lives these days, and in terms of what's expected of us in our society, it can feel isolating. So, and depending on your circumstance, like there are people who joined our shows that weren't physically able to get out to a show. And it was such a wonderful thing to hear from some people who are like, this is great because I feel like I'm part of something. And I can't physically come see you, but now I feel like I'm part of this family that means something to me, and that I mean something to you,
Yeah, there were some very, very moving notes that we got and messages, emails, but also when the post office was suddenly the post office was for some reason very political in the news. We wanted to, show our support for the post office. So we started asking people if they would like a postcard with some lyrics written down from one of our songs, or just a little note. We started sending those out every few days. And people would write to us. And some of those, I think when you play the performances that you'll get to in the show, you'll see some of the cards that people had written us. We have them hung behind where we perform in our living room. and
It's like a small fraction.
and it's
of
a
how
small
many
fraction.
We got so many
Yeah.
notes from so
and
many people.
and you know, things that brought us to tears, because, you know, ironically, as isolated as we all had to be, it was one of the most playing those shows in our living room. In some ways, we'd never felt so appreciated, or not so much so appreciated, but that our music had a certain
A
service in a way. And yeah, I'm searching for a different word, but it just felt so purposeful.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to look forward when we were doing them every Saturday night, and to know that every Saturday night it became this, we've got that, we're going to, you know, connect to some people, and knowing that people were looking forward to it was, you know, because everything was so unknown, and we were like, when are we going to play shows again? And so to know that there were people waiting for us every Saturday night, that was really, it was humbling. And it was also kind of, it gave us a sort of strength going forward when now that we're getting back, and you know, to getting out there and feeling like we want to do things where we feel purposeful and appreciated. And there's a lot of other stuff that we were doing before the pandemic that maybe we don't want to do some of those things because, and I think that's true for everyone in their lives. I think, where you're sort of reevaluating, well, what do I want to do with this precious time on earth?
Instead of keeping your head down and like, just, you know, I got to do this just because I got to do it, you know, looking up and thinking, well, what is the meaning of what I'm doing, and how many people can I connect with,
help
if I'm not really doing something that fosters that, you know? So I think we've definitely come to really value that situation and that context. It's really important to us.
Yeah.
Well, before we play the first song, I want to ask you to say, for listeners and viewers, how people can find you on so for people who are going, oh, okay, when's the next? I want to watch too.
Yeah.
Can you just say that now, and then
absolutely
we'll go into one day?
Yeah, the best way to find out about where we're playing and when we're playing, and links to all of our music is through our website, which is, oh, look at that. Oh, that's our Instagram. And our website is just misnerandsmith.com, which I'm sure it'll pop up too, but it's MISNERANDSMITH.
Same as the Instagram.
Yes.
.com.
And that's got, you know, it has a list of our upcoming shows. It doesn't always show when our living room shows are. We just did one, so there'll probably be one middle to late September is the next one we'll probably do. But and then we always post on, you know, Facebook and Instagram, you know, when we're announcing those shows.
We also have an email list on our website,
which is
you can sign up to it, and we always let our email people know first, because they've been so good to us. So we make sure they get first info.
Yeah, we don't get lost in the algorithms of the social media.
Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about One Day before DJ, our sound engineer, plays it?
Sure.
I would just say that it's
an old song.
Yeah, it's we chose this one to perform because it's one of our oldest. It's off of our first album back in 2006 or something like that.
I think it's 08. At
08.
Point. Yeah.
Sure.
Because we re-recorded it.
That's
and then
right.
We released it. Yeah.
But it's off of our first album, and it's a song that is still, and several of those songs are still in our set lists to this day. But it's one of the songs that I think has evolved the most, not necessarily consciously, but it's just one that it gets into sort of a little bit jazzy, only in the sense of it's a loose term, not I'm not talking like you're going to hear some bebop jazz here, but in the sense of it's one in our live shows that we improvise a lot on during, so we never play it exactly the same twice kind of song, and in that way it's really evolved since we first started playing it 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fun. And so,
Yeah.
and it's about 5.5 minutes long.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're ready.
All
We're
right.
ready, DJ.
Enjoy.
One day I will be home, gonna swim in the ocean all alone. One day I will be home, like a child's chased away. These young days won't stay. One day we'll be as old as the stars. Yes, and perhaps we've already are. Gonna swim in the ocean all alone. One day we'll be as old as the stars. Yes, and perhaps we already are.
Wow, I actually get to ask you about the song. It's so fun to have the opportunity because I've been able to interview so many different artists and musicians. I like my mind is saying, well, it depends on the listener what it means, but I want to know what it means to you.
Sure. Well, I can say it's first of all, it was somewhat surreal watching ourselves play and go, oh, that's what we look like. Not that we've never seen it, but well, I wrote that song. I'll say what it means to me, and I would, without trying to sound, wiggly in it. It does change. Like that is a song that I feel like for me has changed in what I was writing. Not that the song is different in its meaning, but like how it means to me is, I guess, a way of putting it. But I mean, I wrote it when I was probably 18 or 19. And, there aren't a ton of lyrics in it, but, I was writing, I think I was sort of like projecting I was 18 or 19, so I wasn't a child, but I was kind of thinking about being older and looking back, and also like how time is so relative, and that the image of I'm going to swim in the ocean all alone was sort of from the perspective of a child, and at some point realizing I'm going to swim, and the excitingness and the excitement of that, and also the fear of that. All that represents. The ocean is beautiful, and but it's also incredibly vast, and that's daunting. So and then the line about the someday we'll be as old as the stars, and perhaps we already are. That I've always, it's something that I feel, and it's not that I have this, I can prove that, but there's a sense in me. I think that's kind of what I was, when I was writing it, was trying to tease that out of like, what is, I have a sense of that, of what that means. And that would be wonderful, maybe, if that's true. And in a real way it is. I mean, we're made of things that of matter that is as old as the stars. Stardust. And yeah, Joni Mitchell said it too. So I think a lot of our songs play with time, and those not necessarily intentionally, but if we look back at our songs, I think, oh wow, we've written a lot about time, and so I think that song, especially about the duality of being young and old at the same time, and having a sense when you're younger of what it might be to be old, and in a way, when you're older, you've experienced being young, but you can't quite get back to what that, because being young means you haven't had the experience. So there's no way to go back to that.
Right.
You can. So anyway, that's kind of what it means to me and how it's changed. But
To me, so I have a different relationship with this song because I didn't write it. But my relationship with this song kind of hinges very much on the harmonies that I sing in it. And a lot of the harmonies that I sing in many of our songs, but especially in this one, I'm trying to make two voices become one. So you can hear the harmonies and you can hear that there are harmonies, but you're not sure who's singing the melody and who's singing the harmony. And it's kind of becoming this sort of stream of vocals. And I find this song incredibly meditative. Like I can get lost in this song every time we sing it because it has such a great groove. And the harmonies that I'm singing, I think I took that image of swimming in the ocean all alone. And I think the harmonies that I'm expressing are very much about that image. There's this sort of like vastness around us, and we're kind of like producing this sound that just kind of reverberates out into space. And I think that's kind of what I feel when I play this song. And it's funny to put it into words because I don't think I ever have tried to do that. I don't know if I actually did. Maybe none of that made any sense. But to be inside a song like that and to be performing it and to know it so well. I mean, we've been singing that song since we started playing together. And so, to live inside that song is to swim in the ocean like that. And even though I'm playing with Sam, I'm having my own experience of that in a almost a slightly different way, because of what I'm doing in the song. But
and the harmonies,
wow.
The harmonies just add so much. I mean, that song is a great example of how much Megan, though she didn't write that song technically, I can't imagine the song without the bass and the harmonies, especially the harmonies. Because it helps tell the story without adding more words, if that makes sense. It's another color that we paint with. And so to some of these ideas in that song, for instance, even words can't really express what they're trying to express. So hopefully, I mean, that's why I think music is what it is that it can express something that we can't always with words. So to have that other dimension of a harmony that is, quite literally more than one thing, it's not just, you're not just hearing the words, you're hearing the frame around the words, and that moves in different directions. And so I think the harmonies speak more even without words.
That all made total sense to me.
Oh, good. Well, I
it's
guess
interesting.
The show is called It's Your Voice. So if it doesn't make sense to you, I don't know where we're going to go.
It doesn't matter because it is your voice. And it's such an experience. I find that song to be such an experience because it always surprises me because like I'm so there, like, oh, I'm at the ocean. Oh, alone. Oh, okay. Well, that takes it to the vast, daunting, like it goes from like, oh wow, here we are together. Ooh, we're on this wave together, alone. Oh wow, okay, yeah. And then up to the stars, and then maybe we already are. It's wow, like shoo, sending us places.
I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
And
so
cool. It's hard to put into words. Probably impossible what Megan's harmonizing does. So I'm not going to try. And I wanted to make sure do you want to say anything about Sadie's song before we go?
Oh, definitely. We want to say something about
Okay. Sadie.
We're so excited about this song. This is a really special song for us. And this is one that actually has been kind of a touchstone for our community of people who have been coming to the live concerts in our living room, online, over the pandemic, because it was sort of finished right before the pandemic started. And so we started playing all these new songs for everybody in our living room. And it just was so quickly one of their favorite ones and one of the most requested songs that we would get. And I think it kind of is a testament to how, what the story is and how it unfolds and how it really is able to capture a certain time and place, and in a very specific way, but also in a universal way. I talk about Sam's songwriting a lot in the sense that he's able to be very specific about the story he's telling without shutting anybody out, if that makes sense. So it's not so much, sometimes you can write songs that feel incredibly like so personal that there's no way in for anybody who's listening. And you're like, well, that's happening to them. And I don't know. I mean, I can see that it's a nice song, but I can't feel like I'm inside with them. With Sam's music, when he writes a song, I never feel that way. I always feel like there's a way in for me and that I belong in the song and that nobody is telling me who gets to feel related to the song and who doesn't. You know what I mean? It's sort of this very beautiful open door. So Sadie's song is like that too.
The basic thing behind it was, and we could talk more after we hear it, but I wanted to write a song specifically about first the music. Some of the music came first, and then I often will play it over and over again and just see what it brings up instead of going, I'm going to write a song about X, Y, and Z. And what came up for me when I kept playing just the music in my room was the friendship, youthful friendship when you're very young, and those friendships that you might have that maybe you go separate ways after, maybe you're friends for 2 years or 3 years in elementary school, but in looking back, you might realize, wow, I kind of found out who I was with this person. And so that idea, and then I also, more specifically, I wanted to write a song about 2 young girls in a world that is, for a lot of it, made for boys, and being told, that's stay in your lane. No, this is for boys. And what kind of, I wanted to write a story about that. So that's kind of where this song came from. And then there's some little tidbits of things that are things that I picked up from, I don't know, just images that one from my half sister who told me a story about her growing up. She grew up somewhere else, where in Oregon. I grew up in California, and one of her stories kind of made it into this song, a reference to it. And I'd always wanted to do that too. And I'll tell it when we hear it. But yeah, so that's a little background of a Sadie song.
All right, thank you. We're ready.
It was a good day, breaking all the rules. Sadie lit the firecracker, first to dare, and I was first to run. Crimson hair, rivaling the sun. Sadie said, don't listen when they tell you that you're just a little girl. Skinned my knees, tore my new blue jeans, climbing over fences when it suited us to feel a bit more free. was a good day, showing all them fool boys, doing all the things they said weren't for us, they just weren't meant for girls. Crooked smile, freckles cross her nose, made up constellations, told me all the places we were bound to go. We drop in to every church in town, peeked in through the stained glass window, tried to find the one God hung around. Northern lights slung across the sky, the banks of Lake Ontario, silver green reflecting in our eyes. Made our pledge right there on the shore, swore we'd never let them win. Stars came spilling down over our heads. Sunlight spills across my table, bright and cold as steel. Sunrise, I am trying to remember, were those dreams or real? All my words fall shy of arrival, still my heart can feel. Kept my word, I never let them win. And Sadie's been inside my head, whispering in my ear all this time. Sadie's been inside my head, whispering in my ear all this time.
That is so sweet.
Thank you.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I am realizing, because we have just a few minutes left, what I would love to do is make sure you two and I get a chance to say like our closing thoughts, so that we can still play a third song of yours, which I'd
Sure.
like us to go out on.
Sure.
Do you want to share a closing thought, and then I'd like to thank everyone?
I think just that we're so grateful to be able to do what we do, and that the music that we write it connects with people to the extent that it has, and we feel very lucky to do something like this, and that what we love to do is connecting with people.
Yeah, and the fact that this has been our life's work, I'm very content with my life's work. I feel like we have been and done all these different things. The music has taken us all over the place and allowed us to meet so many different kinds of people in so many different kinds of places. And I wouldn't change that for anything. I really wouldn't. It's been wonderful. So hopefully here's to more of that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. And that's why I knew I wanted you here, because you do create such a sense of belonging and community and connection. And that's the whole purpose of my 30 years of diversity education, is to welcome everyone, and let's create space for everyone, and everyone needs to be welcomed and have equity. So I feel like your presence does that. And I just really appreciate it through music too.
Thank you.
Your acts, your deeds, and your music. And to save time for your song, I just want to right now thank our sound engineer, DJ.
Thanks, DJ.
And thank our producer, Dean. And again, Sam Misner and Megan Smith. You can find them at Misner and Smith or misnerandsmith.com. And I think you will find them because it creates such belonging. And thank you to all the listeners and viewers. And really so appreciate your paying attention to the humanness. And I will tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on w4cy.com. And now we're going to go out on one of their songs called The Upside. My daughter loves the song.
Thank you so much, Bahia. We really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having us on.
Off the ground. Don't tread the trail of a failure. Others believe. Steer clear just like a sailor, judging the seas. Maybe you're just a riddle, but answers arise. I know it feels like drowning, the questions and fear. Trust now, the pressure pounding will soon disappear. Maybe we're falling. Maybe we're falling. shrug off the gloom. Deep down, hope is waiting. Better make room. 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 Better make room.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Whew.
Great job.